Alright, today I will be talking about water, water movements, oceans, ocean movements. Our first concept is ocean currents. They're stream-like movements of water in the ocean near or at the surface of the water. And they are stream-like currents. And they aren't as big and as massive and rough as waves. And they are softer and calmer. Our second concept, here's an example of one. A warm surface current that runs from the equator up the eastern coast of the United States. Now, at the eastern coast would be a little bit warmer than other areas because the equator makes the water warmer as it runs up the eastern coast. Our third concept is waves. Movements of the surface of ocean water caused by wind. They are like stream-like movements, but they're more big and rough, like I said when I was talking about ocean currents. Now, our fourth concept is tides. Daily movement of ocean water caused by the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon. Now, the sun and the moon have a gravitational pull on the earth that makes the tide run through the ocean, and it's daily movements. That means it happens every day. Tides and waves are very similar because they are both movements on the ocean, but tides are caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun, and waves are caused by wind. Now, our fifth concept is spring tides. Tides with the largest daily difference between high and low tide. They're caused when the earth, the moon, and the sun are in line. Now, when they're in line, when on both sides where the sun and the moon is pointing towards the earth get high tide, but the sides that aren't in direct contact with not direct contact, but in line with it, are getting low tide because there's no gravitational pull there. And so our sixth concept is neap tides. Tides with the smallest daily difference between high and low tide, caused when the earth, the moon, and the sun are at a right angle, because they would have half of the earth is getting high tide and half is getting low tide because they're at a right angle. And so when it is the smallest daily difference because since they are at a right angle, more parts of the earth are getting high tide. And our seventh concept is flood tide, a period of time when the tide is coming in between low tide and the next high tide. When the tide comes in, it is about to start high tide because it is higher up towards the land. And when it comes in, that would be the beginning of high tide. Our eighth concept is EBV tide, or ebb tide. The period of time when the tide is going out between high tide and the next low tide. You can get flood tide and ebb tide a little bit confused because they are similar in what they mean. Ebb tide when the tide's going out, and flood tide when the tide's coming in. But flood tide is coming in. So coming in, flood, they kind of go along with each other. But ebb tide is going out. And the time between high tide and the next low tide. So if the tide goes out, low tide is about to begin because there's less water towards land. And those are all our concepts for water, water movement, and oceans.